Hello, everybody. All right, today is Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Hopefully, everybody's having a good week thus far, as we're in the last week of February here, almost two months into the new year here. Um, so of course, as usual, we're gonna give you a chance to come in before we talk about what's on tap for tonight. I hope everybody's having a good week thus far. Friendly reminder, of course, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That would be appreciated. Also, if anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Well, let's take care of this. Yeah, so I've been watching like a lot of older cartoons, of course. Working my way through, of course, the Golden Age. Just did November 1934. Basically, by the end of 34, of course, you started seeing the studios doing like color cartoons at that point. Usually through titles like the Merry Melodies title, Happy Harmonies for MGM, um, Color Classics. Let's see, Color Classics, Color Rhapsody, um, cartoon classics from um, from Universal, um, Rainbow Parade. It all basically premiered in the fall of '34. So, anyways, just finish this. Oh, let's see. All right, so we're coming up on 3 minutes here, so I'll talk about what's on top. So tonight, got a couple articles we're going to go over from Me TV Tunes. We're going to looking back on the character Porky Pig, his evolution, and whatever happened to his first voice. Also, we'll have, of course, the wrestling wrap up, get you all caught up on the latest news. Look back to last night's WWE Raw, as it was a go home Raw before the Saturday's Elimination Chamber. With a few interesting little twists and turns, as it were. And then a look ahead to tonight's NXT coming from Cincinnati. Also, there's probably some other piece of news that I didn't mention yesterday that I probably will today. And then we'll finish things off, of course, with this day in each history. So, with that being said, why don't we go ahead? Let me just do one more. Let's see if I can get one last little tidbit before we. All right. All right. So with that, let's go ahead. I guess we'll get right into the topics at hand here. Um, all right. So the first article we're going to, of course, look at this one right here: cartoon evolution of Porky Pig. So I'm sure many of us have grown up at some point having had a chance to watch, of course, some of the Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies cartoons from Warner Brothers. Of course, one of the first star, not the first star, but one of the first stars was Porky Pig. He was, of course, following Bosco, Buddy, and Beans, but predating Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. So let's take a look at this article now from Me TV Toon staff here. Cartoon evolution, Porky Pig. The origin story of the original cartoon pig. Article published today at 10:06 a.m. by Me TV Toon staff. Now there he is, folks. He would eventually become the one who would be synonymous with the whole "That's all, folks" tagline after it going around from a few characters. So that's all, folks. More like there's more, folks. Did you know Porky was the original star of Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies? Um, he was the first. Okay, wasn't exactly the first star. There were like a few came before him. You know, Bosco, um, Buddy, and Beans came before him. But um, anyways, before Bugs, Daffy, and Tweety, Porky was running the show for years. He was a star of hundreds of cartoons and the face of the Looney Tunes brand. But eventually his strength became his ability to help launch other characters into the spotlight. Yeah, eventually Porky did become more of a supporting character to other characters like, obviously like, primarily Daffy. He and Daffy were teamed up quite a bit. But um but what this guy I guess doesn't realize is that before Porky there was like Beans, Buddy, and Bosco. All right, so Porky did not go through as many visual changes and redesigns as his Looney Tunes colleagues. His changes were more subtle as he shifted from leading man to reliable straight man to Daffy Duck, Sylvester, and other characters. Let's examine the filmography of Porky Pig to learn more about the development of this nervous but lovable stuttering pig. And again, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, I Haven't Got a Hat, 1935. Porky's first cartoon was I Haven't Got a Hat, in which a school full of animal children recite songs and poems for their parents. Porky stutters his way through the midnight ride of Paul Revere. Producer Leon Schlesinger instructed director Fritz Frayling to try making a cartoon version of Our Gang, a popular series of live-action shorts. That was the Little Rascals shorts, people that we all remember. Let's see. And I Haven't Got a Hat was the result. Despite this being the 100th Looney Tunes cartoon, the studio still needed a star, and Porky ended up being the breakout star of the short. Now, mind you, prior to Porky, though, they did have some major featured characters, like as I said, Bosco. From his first appearance in 1929 to 1933, and then Buddy for 1934, but Buddy didn't last too long, and then I think Beans was actually another character that was coming out around the same time as Porky, actually. So of this short. Beans Buddy 1935 to 36. Most of Porky's early cartoons are supporting roles to Beans the cat. Okay, so this is the other character, one of the other characters. Original Looney Tunes animators Harmon and Ising left the studio with the breakout star character Bosco. Beans was meant to be a newer, funnier Bosco replacement, and Porky was only meant to be a sidekick. Hmm. Yeah, Beans came after Buddy. But audiences loved the stuttering pig more than the trouble-making kitten. Porky didn't stay Beans' sidekick for long, but eventually he'd eventually become Daffy's sidekick. So it went from being Bean's sidekick to Daffy's sidekick. So that was Plain Dippy, 1936. All right, so let's see. Porky's first solo cartoon was Plain Dippy, a wartime cartoon featuring Porky joining the Army Air Corps and training for war. He even spells his name P P P P P P P P Porky. Beans does make a brief cameo in this short in the dizziness test, where Beans and Porky are spun around like tops. The Blowout, 1936. The Blowout is Porky's first cartoon without Beans. He's the only star in this short, where Porky does good deeds for pennies, so he can buy an ice cream. Yeah, I actually saw this cartoon. What was it? A couple months back. It's kind of a cute cartoon. Him trying to go around trying to get, I think, what was it, like 5 cents or 8 cents for something like that to get an ice cream cone. Or ice cream float. In this image, Porky is excited because he just found a nickel in his pocket. While doing good deeds, he accidentally stops a bank robbery from happening. Wow. So, 1937, Porky's Duck Hunt. Hmm. Let me see. Hmm. This cartoon was a lot of firsts for Porky. First cartoon with Mel Blanc as Porky's voice actor. Previously, previously had been voiced by Joe Doherty and Count Cutelli. This was also the first cartoon with a redesigned Porky for Porky's acceptance and age. Uh, before Porky's appearance and age varied from short to short, but now with a redesign, Porky was solidly a young adult pig, adorably chubby and with big eyes. This was also Porky's first pairing with Daffy Duck and Daffy's first cartoon appearance. Porky's Duck Hunt began a trend at Looney Tunes of animators using a Porky cartoon to test out newer characters. Hmm. Hmm. Rover's Rival, 1937. Rover's Rival is a short in which Porky tries to teach his old dog some new tricks. But more importantly, it is the first cartoon where Porky pops out of the drum and says, "That's all, folks." This end card established Porky as the main star and face of Looney Tunes in the 1930s. Well, mind you, again, that's the late 30s. The early 30s, it was Bosco and Buddy. Bosco and Buddy, while they weren't popping out of the drum, they were usually the ones who were delivering the "that's all, folks" catchphrase. Hmm. Porky and Gabby, 1937. Like with Daffy Duck, the animators tried another Porky pairing, this time with Gabby Goat. Gabby was a short-lived, grumpy character who played well against Porky's mild-mannered personality, but wasn't as entertaining to watch as Porky and Daffy. Porky's Hare Hunt, 1938. The next character that Porky would help introduce would be Bugs Bunny, the, quote, happy bunny, unquote, character that later evolved into Bugs, first appeared in Porky's Hare Hunt. And here's the thing, too. Porky's Hare Hunt and Porky's Duck Hunt were more or less, they were kind of the same cartoon, more or less, just with different characters. Porky's Duck Hunt had Daffy as the feature, and Porky's Hare Hunt had, the early version of Bugs as Happy Rabbit. As it. Old Glory, 1939. In 1939, Warner Brothers created a series of patriotic films for the 4th of July, and this Looney Tune was created as part of that collaboration in Old Glory. Now, mind you, many this might have been one of the first ones, but from, let's say, the late 1930s into the 40s, well through World War II, many of the studios were doing these type of cartoons, these kind of patriotic cartoons. So this wasn't. Porky falls asleep trying to learn the Pledge of Allegiance, but then Uncle Sam visits him in a dream and teaches Porky all about the pledge. This cartoon is Porky's first appearance in color, since I Haven't Got a Hat. His first in Technicolor. Fun fact, this cartoon was produced during a heat wave. The animators were worried about fans blowing the drawings across the room. Animators ended up producing the film at night when it was much cooler. That makes some sense. Yeah. I remember 1939 was the year that Warner Brothers came. I think that was the year they came out with the cartoon A Trip to the Zoo, which was the one where you had that one character who kept teasing the lion and ended up getting eaten by the lion. Let's see. The Clampett era, 1937 to 1946. From 1937 to 1946, the Clampett era, meaning Bob Clampett, I take it, Porky cartoons were mostly directed by Bob Clampett, who focused on defining Porky's look and characteristics. This is the era where we see Porky get his uniform of a blue jacket and red bow tie. Little Orphan Airedale, 1947. Wow, so they jumped pretty quick. Well, I guess they did. Little Orphan Airedale. Most of Porky's cartoons in the 1940s were buddy comedies with Daffy Duck or adventure cartoons directed by Bob Clampett. But in 1947, it was time to test a new dynamic with a new character, Charlie Dog. Charlie is a wise guy con man of a dog, desperately looking for an owner, and he identifies Porky as his next sucker. Yeah, Charlie made, I think, 2 or 3 cartoons in which he did this. Porky was one of his victims, and then you had another one where he tried to do this to a Southern gentleman character, claiming to be a Southerner. Over the course of 3 cartoons, Charlie would try to convince Porky to adopt him, and Porky would try to kick him out of the house. Well, it wasn't just Porky who did that. Scaredy Cat, 1948. "1948 Scaredy Cat" was the first pairing of Porky and Sylvester. When separate, Porky is often fearful and anxious, while Sylvester is bold and aggressive. When they are together, though, Porky becomes the confident and determined one, while Sylvester becomes fearful and easily intimidated. Additionally, the dangers of their situation would go over Porky's head, leaving Sylvester to face his fears and help keep Porky out of harm's way. The 3 cartoons they starred in together allowed animators to experiment with Porky and Sylvester's personalities more without diluting their performances in their cartoons with Tweety and Daffy, respectively. With Sylvester being paired off with Tweety and Porky being paired off with Daffy. And even in this, you can probably see the some of the evolution of animation going on here too, as we're going through this article too, seeing the pictures on the left there. The Ducksters, 1950. Throughout the rest of the golden age of animation, Porky remained firmly at Daffy's side, often playing the straight man role to Daffy's over-the-top goofiness. For a nervous, stuttering pig, sometimes being the sidekick is preferable to being the star. So there we go. So that's the end of the article there. So I'm going to go back up through here. You can look at the pictures there. He's going from, well, I think his first cartoon may have been the I Haven't Got a Hat, which was a color one, which I think was a Merry Melodies cartoon. So now we'll probably get ready to move on to the next cartoon. Or next article, rather. All right, so what happened to Porky's original voice actor? Porky originally had a stuttering voice actor. Article published today. I'm a TV Tunes staff. P. In 1935, Porky Pig made his Looney Tunes debut in the short I Haven't Got a Hat. Director Fritz Frayling knew the studio was looking for a new breakout star to replace Bosco, and Bosco's boring replacement, Buddy. At this point in cartoon history, there were no characters with speech impediments of any kind. So Frayling took a risk and created a character who stuttered. To double down on Porky's speech impediment, Frayling told the casting department to find an actor with a real stutter, and they found Joe Doherty. Treg Brown, the sound editor on Termite Terrace. Termite Terrace, for those of you who don't know, is the nickname for Warner Studios lot, I believe. would take the recording of Doherty reading Porky's lines, no additional accent or intonation. Then Brown would speed up the recording slightly to increase the pitch to get the childish Porky voice we know now, which is very similar to how animators still create kids' voices today on shows like South Park. Casting a voice actor with a stutter wasn't a huge risk at the time because Porky was only meant to be a minor side character. Beans the Cat was meant to be the breakout star of I Haven't Got a Hat. Beans is credited before Porky and in many of Porky and Beans cartoons together in the title after Looney Tunes usually says starring Beans. But Beans' moment in the spotlight was short-lived because audiences loved Porky and wanted more. So basically you put a cartoon out there to basically try to get over one character, and you end up getting another over. That's kind of, if you think about it, that was the whole Yes movement, Daniel Bryan Yes movement, long before Daniel Bryan was even on this earth. Let's see. Porky becoming a star character was great for the animation studio, but it was not great for Joe Doherty. The stutter that helped Porky stand out as a character also troubled his original voice actor. Production of Porky cartoons was increased. Meanwhile, Doherty could not control his stutter. According to Frayling, Doherty got nervous every time they said cut and struggled with reading on cue. He also could not control his stammering to end a sentence or a phrase on time. Recording lines took longer than it would on most cartoons. All these issues added to production costs and time. Time animators did not have if they wanted to capitalize on Porky's rising star power. After 12 cartoons with Doherty voicing Porky, Leon Schlesinger stepped in and fired him. Additional lines on the remaining Doherty Porky cartoons were filled in by Count Cutelli. Schlesinger then asked Mel Blanc to step in as Doherty's replacement in 1937. Blanc had his own approach to the voice, even visiting a pig farm to try to mimic the pig's grunts. He quickly realized that Doherty's stutter was now a core part of Porky's character, so Blanc continued stuttering as part of Porky's voice. Losing the role of Porky Pig stung, but it did not end Joe Doherty's acting career. Doherty pivoted from voice acting to on-screen performances in films like A Star is Born, East of Eden, and he also appeared in Western shows including The Loner and Pistols and Petticoats. So they brought in a stuttering actor to do the voice, but then when he became the focus of the show, the stutter was made unmanageable with the added stress of being the focus of the show instead of just being like a supporting character. So anyways, I do need to step away for a moment, but I'll be right back. But what I will do, of course, is I will put on some music. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So we just got through the two articles I was going over tonight regarding Porky Pig. So you might want to rewatch the. So Porky basically made his debut in 1935, and I Haven't Got a Hat. Originally, as a supporting character for Beans the Cat, a character that they were trying to have replace Buddy, who had been the second star of the Looney Tunes cartoons, who had replaced Bosco, who they lost when Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising moved from Looney Tunes, left Looney Tunes for MGM. And Bosco, of course, made his MGM debut in November of 1934, the Happy Harmonies cartoon, Bosco's Parlor Pranks. So we're talking about Porky Pig, about, basically how he evolved over the years, going from initially a supporting character, then to a star, and then back to a supporting character. And we also talked about his original voice actor, Joe Doherty, who was fired after 12 cartoons due to the fact that as Porky became the focus of the show, Joe who had an issue with stuttering. He was somebody who stuttered. It became more pronounced as Porky became the focus of the show, and became the star, with more of the pressure, causing Doherty to take longer to do his lines and stuff like that. But Doherty didn't, he may have been fired from that job, but he ended up still having a pretty decent acting career afterwards. So with that now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to the wrestling wrap-up. As, of course, we're going to look back first off to last night's Raw, as it was the go-home Raw before this Saturday's Elimination Chamber. So on the show opened up with a triple threat match between Ludwig Kaiser, Penta, and Pete Dunne, which Ludwig Kaiser won. Which became Penta's first loss since his debut back earlier this month. Actually, back almost 2 months now, because he debuted, I think, on the debut of Raw on Netflix. Then, of course, in the next match, the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, the LWO members Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde. In a non-title match, Raw World Champion Gunther defeated Akira Tozawa of Alpha Academy. Lyra Valkyria retained the WWE Women's Intercontinental title over Dakota Kai. In a non-title match, Men's Intercontinental Champion Braun Breaker defeated Dominic Mysterio via DQ in a match that led to a confrontation between Breaker and Finn Balor, possibly setting up a match between the two, maybe for the Intercontinental title, which is leading some people to wonder if Balor may be bringing back his demon character. And of course, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, in the main event from last night's Raw, saw the Judgment Day duo in a match for the WWE Women's Tag Team title. Bianca Belair and Naomi defended against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez of the Judgment Day, in which Morgan and Rodriguez won the titles from. And these 4 women will also be involved in this weekend's Elimination Chamber to see who will go on to WrestleMania to take on Rhea Ripley for the WWE Women's World Title. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and with today being Tuesday, February the 25th. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Niche history. History! Oh, wait, actually, before we do, there are a couple other little tidbits of wrestling news I should probably bring up too. One bit of wrestling news that's out there is, now, for those of you who may not know, Lex Luger, a few years ago, suffered what they called spinal shock syndrome. While on a plane, simply turning his head, he ended up paralyzing himself from the neck down. In the past few years here, he's been undergoing a type of therapy with DDP. As some of you may know, Diamond Dallas Page has a yoga program that he's developed, and he's been working with a lot of the older WWE talent. He was working with Scott Hall before his passing, Jake the Snake Roberts, and trying to help them through their issues. He's been working with Lex Luger, and Luger had some major progress the other day. For the first time in a few years, he was able to stand up out of his wheelchair. So, people are saying that Page has been doing a lot of good work with his yoga program, helping some of his former associates and all that. Which some people call them not just a main event superstar, but a main event person, right? So there's some good news there. So that, there's also some talk that Vince McMahon might be considered, there's a rumor going on out there that Vince McMahon might actually be trying to start his own wrestling company. Apparently, but it's all still speculation on that front. So, but with that being said, why don't we now go ahead and move on to this day in each history, as I said. History! So, let me just go ahead and let's see. 45, 55, 2020, and 1985. All right. So, first off, we're going to head back 80 years ago, as on this date back in 1945. This date back in 1945, 80 years ago today. The 15th issue of USA Comics from Marvel, known at the time as USA Comic Magazine Corporation, went on sale on this date back in 1945. It was a quarterly title. Was 10 cents, 32 pages. The features included Captain America, and the story was The Doom of Metal, Jap Buster Johnson, Luminous Death, and Whizzer, the Link Mob. On this date, 80 years ago today, the 15th issue of USA Comics from Marvel, at the time known as USA Comic Magazine Corporation, went on sale on this date back in 1945. So now, moving on to the next piece in each history, as we move ahead to 1955. On this date in 1955, let's see, from the Convention Hall in Saratoga Springs, New York, NWA Upstate had a card in which saw in the main event saw Art Nielsen and Reggie Laskowski. Reggie Laskowski, known to most fans as the Crusher, retained the NWA version of the NWA Chicago version of the World Tag Team titles over Hans Schreibel and Lou Newman, 2 falls to none. So, in which the first match was a Schnabel, and Newman. And back in these days, particularly title matches were 2 out of 3 falls. So I also saw in a best 2 out of 3 falls match, Chief Big Kettle defeat Chuck Moeller. And then prior to that, Chief Big Kettle also defeated Steve Buckiness. So on this date back in 1955, 70 years ago today, Art Nielsen and Reggie Lazowski retained the NWA Chicago version of the NWA World Tag Team titles over Hans Schnabel and Lou Newman. Now moving ahead to 1985. Moving ahead to 1985, 40 years ago today. On this date, 40 years ago today, the Nippon Sunrisers OVA Kita 12 Nin was released on this date back in 1985. 40 years ago today, the OVA Kita 12 Nin was released on this date. Nippon Sunrise. It was part of the Ginga Hyoru V-Frame franchise, also known as Galactic Drifter V-Frame and Round Vermian V-Frame. Was originally it was a mecha anime television series in 1983, loosely based on Jules Verne's Do on de Vacances, or 2 Years Vacation. But the OVA Kita 12 Nin was released on this date back in 1985. And finally, moving ahead to 2020, on this date in 2020, premiering in theaters on this date in 2020, Warner Brothers Animation's Superman Red Sun, of course, the Warner Brothers adaptation of the Red Sun story from the Superman comic, based on the 2003 comic book miniseries of the same name, written by Mark Millar. So, 5 years ago today, the release of Superman Red Sun from Warner Brothers Animation premiered in movie theaters on this date back in 2020. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here tomorrow night with more niche news. Don't forget to head over to Rick Piper's channel tonight, as he'll be having his chill stream. If you guys want to go check that out. And of course, this Sunday, of course, RJ Carter will be joining. RJ Carter from Critical Blast will be joining me, as we'll be starting our May 1940 coverage of comic books that went on sale. We'll be focusing in, of course, on DC. And with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.